the toad licking thing is kind of a myth. It doesn't really work.
So if I don't have anger, I basically have no personality because I have no idea where my boundaries are.
My girlfriend was pregnant and I clashed with her a lot because that's where we should cut in.
Yeah, probably. So have you ever done DMT?
That's a good opening question, Eric. No, I have not actually. I was just going through a list in my head of all the drugs that I've ever done. DMT is not on there.
I don't even know what that is. That's how bad I am with drugs.
Licking a poisonous frog from the Amazon.
That's not the only way to consume it, but I mean that's the cool way to consume it, right? That's when you really have a story.
Yeah, that's when your drug experiences come with a real story.
Like I went to the Amazon and well, actually the toads do not live in the Amazon. That's like two separate stories. So the toads are actually from the Sonoran Desert. So then you must have gone to the Amazon, but brought the toad with you and licked it there just because you wanted to be in the Amazon for that experience.
Yes. Well, yeah, if I do it, I think I would do it only this way.
Okay, well, let me just brief you on the toad licking thing is kind of a myth. It doesn't really work. You have to smoke the venom, like you have to kind of milk the toad. It has to be in a good mood as well, you know, and then you milk it and then it squirts
to be
out.
in a good mood.
It's good to warm it up a little. I mean, I'm not an expert on this or like by any stretch.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, you have to like, I mean, professionals do this, which is not me, right? I just heard about this, but you have to milk it and then it like squirts out this venom and then you dry it. And then that's what you kind of smoke or snort. I don't know, whatever you want to do with it.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Okay, are we 1 for 3 or 0 for 3 that has done this?
Oh, I've never done the toad thing. I've just done like regular DMT, which is not from frogs. But yeah, I mean, that was nice. Yeah.
Okay. Recommending. You're recommending.
I would never recommend psychedelics. I've stopped doing that because I realized my own bias. I realized like it's been such a good like thing for my personal development to have those. Like,
yeah, I remember you saying that.
But then again, that makes me like want to go like, oh, you should do it as well. And I stopped doing that because I don't know how someone else is going to react to it. It's definitely not without any risk. So yeah, I don't recommend them, but I still can say like, yeah, for me, it was very good. Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting because I have a completely different point of view regarding this. So I'm super scared of drugs. So I'm not doing any drugs whatsoever because it's coming from the outside. But I'm doing stuff with my body, and people who usually do drugs are telling me I'm crazy. But I'm like, yeah, but it's my philosophy. Why would my body work against me? So, you know, when you do shamanic breathing, really weird things happen. But it's coming from my body. It's not coming from something I'm consuming. So I'm not even scared. But I have I have a lot of friends who are doing all kinds of drugs and they're completely freak out when I tell them, let's do shamanic breathing. No, I'm scared. I'm like, well, how are you not scared to take all this LSD and stuff? It would freak me out. I'm the first one who's going to fly through the window just because I'm going to think I'm a bird or something. There's no way. Yeah, that's me.
Wait, so
what kind of weird kinds of things are happening with you when you do shamanic breathing? I'm really curious on that.
I had, this is what I tried to explain to Eric when I was trying to deal.
You should have somebody with you.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
I agree with that. No.
I agree with that as well. Phil, what happened? Sorry, guys. Eric, this was really funny. Yeah?
I don't know, like you talked for like 3 minutes, I think, and we missed all of that. But what Phil was just saying was that he's working with someone, and like he got the message from them basically like, don't do shamanic breathing at home alone. It's very bad. And I don't agree with that. Like I agree with like, don't do psychedelics at home alone, especially if you're inexperienced. Yeah, sure. The shamanic breathing, I would err on the side of, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
What else?
Now we can go back to Natasja telling her what happens to her when she.
But how did they elaborate? Why not?
Because of the extreme emotions that can come up, and the down to traumas that can resurface, and panic attacks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So how does it work for you?
Because for me it's different, because I did it with Phil in the retreat with Philip. And when I do it with somebody else, I cannot completely give in, because I need to be alone, because I don't really trust other people to be 100% open. So I have to do it alone. I have no other choice. So I did it, and it was like I was breathing like 15 minutes to 30, and then I just laid down and I waited what's gonna happen. And I was like, and nothing's gonna happen. But it's true. You start really crying, and your body starts shaking, and everything goes out. And then I wanted to use it as an anger management, because if you guys remember when we were doing the workshop that Eric was leading, I couldn't speak. Like everybody was screaming and I couldn't put a voice out. And I was like, okay, let's work on that. Let's just try to.
That was the workshop where we all had to pretend anger at each other for 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Eric was really working with me on this, and I just couldn't cooperate. And I was like, okay, let's do this. I'm gonna open my throat chakra or whatever it is. I'll just try to, and it actually worked. So basically, I was doing different voices that were not even my voices, and there were like 5 or 6 different intonations of voices. And I was just thinking, man, if neighbors hear me now, they're gonna call the police or something, because it was so loud. It was really intense. And the thing is, you cannot control it. It's like your mind takes a chair and sits down in a theater and says, okay, body, now you do your thing. I can chatter, but I'm just gonna let you do your thing. So basically your mind has zero control. You cannot say, okay, now open my mouth, close my mouth, move my left hand, move my right hand. It doesn't work.
So you had no control over the shouting, over those 5 voices, etc.
No.
Was it? To me, it sounds pretty frightening, actually. Also, in terms of like, well, did you feel like there's other spirits talking through you, or do you feel like this is your unconscious, like alter egos that are talking through you?
No, I didn't feel like there are other spirits. I felt like I was like a really old soul, and I was just living like 15 different lives before mine. And all the other lives were like very primal. So it went super back. It was like
so almost like a reincarnation kind of history.
It was like a tribe time. And I don't believe in these things, and I was just there, and I was like, okay, this is broadening my horizons, because I don't believe in any of this, so I'm just gonna let it be, whatever.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so I was just there and I was observing stuff, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. Try not to forget this. Try to remember this later on. And it was just it's very mind-blowing. I could understand why people are afraid of it.
It was not frightening for you.
No, because it comes through my body and I really 100% trust my body. So I'm like, okay, whatever. You want to get out of the system, just do it. And I'll be here and I'm not going to judge or try to, you know. And there was another super important thing, because first it takes all of your body. So it takes your legs and all the things. And after, it just becomes a chatter. And I was really tired of being there for half an hour. And I was just on the floor for half an hour. And then I said, okay, then I'm just gonna take a shower because I'm just super bored being here. and the chatter just, I was still talking and I still couldn't control this part.
So you were, it was not just like a dream. The whole thing was physically manifested. I could have put up a camera and it would have caught it.
I couldn't stop it. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to do my thing until this stops because I'm bored laying down on the floor for more than half an hour. I'm just not going to do it.
That's hilarious that you have like 5 different personalities, 5 different voices with their own past lives coming all through you, and you're like, this is fucking boring, man. Let me do something else.
I'm gonna watch some Netflix now, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what it was said, it didn't make any sense. So it's just blubberish, but it needed to come out, and the voices were men voices, they were tribe voices, and then at the end they were kids voices. So at the end was really, really soft.
And were they speaking English or?
Made no sense.
No, okay. Huh.
Not even a language you recognize?
No.
Oh, wow.
No, not at all.
And did that linger with you afterwards? Like, did any of this come back, or once it was kind of worked out and you were back in your normal routine, this was just a memory?
Yeah, nothing came back. It was just a release, and that was it.
Really interesting.
Yeah, it was really at in the middle, because there was a lot of things happening. So these were just the voices, but in the middle, I felt like there was some kind of rape happening in between. So I just went through different things and I could distance myself that they were not mine. So, you know when you go through your own trauma and you really cry and you have an emotional release, and then there's a difference when things are just passing through your body and you know it's not yours, and you're able to have a distance to it. So there were 2 separate feelings. And I found that super fascinating as well.
That is super fascinating. Yeah. I've never experienced what you described, not even close. This is the most intense recount of a shamanic breathing session that I've ever heard.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes recommend people do this, and it helps them like get to a deep connected state with themselves, and it helps them like basically like when you do this over time, often people like release blockages, you know, if they're have an emotional blockage, or they don't feel in touch with themselves, or they can't talk to their inner child because there's like a wall in between of noise like that. It seems to help really for that, and other things I do with people as well, but that's kind of the practical application that I found for it. And this is just totally blowing my mind right now.
Yeah, because the other important thing that is that after that I could actually get in touch with my anger. So I would actually get angry about things because I usually don't feel this emotion at all. But nothing else got resolved. You know, it was not like something super, like after that there was some kind of enlightenment. No, I had the same problems. I was the same person, nothing else. It was just like if you want to really make some kind of results out of it, you need to do it on regular basis. If you really want to set intention and say, okay, I'm gonna really, I don't know, resolve my emotional trauma with this, you need to do it super often, because I tried to do it 2 or 3 more times after that and I just fell asleep.
Okay, so it doesn't work every time.
No, it worked the first time.
Okay, then I have just one more detailed question. You said you did it and then you decided to connect it with your anger emotions, or you want to release that. What did you do in that moment? Like, you were breathing really hard. I'm guessing your brain is kind of emptying out. I've not done it. Like you kind of don't concentrate on anything at all, and then you decided to concentrate on how am I angry, or how did that work for you?
No, I just set an intention, because it's always, I don't know, I heard these people who always say, okay, when you meditate, set an intention, and that you set an intention in 3 seconds. Mm-hmm. You go into it and then you just focus on breathing, and you set the intention 10 minutes ago, and then you hope that intention is going to manifest, or maybe it doesn't, but I wasn't actively thinking about this.
Okay.
I was just waiting. The thing is, I was just waiting, and I was like, okay, now I have to be here for half an hour and wait. And then it just hit me. And I was like, oh, this is actually working, because I was just there waiting.
Okay, so afterwards you were just sitting there for a while, and then...
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think it's really cool and remarkable that you actually sent, at some point, like I understand you set an intention, like after that workshop we did, to really get in touch with your anger, because I think most people, like they wouldn't even do that. I think that's already something I really appreciate, because that's really cool. Like, you set an intention to actually work through that. Some people, like most people I work with, and they're blocked. Like, anger is something that's often blocked, and then people are like, they're only able to cry or do nothing, just freeze, basically, right? And it's so common. But what's rare is people actually setting an intention to work through that, and you actually found something that works, like, right away. That's really special, I think. But also, can I ask you, like, why was it important for you to do that, to set that intention to get in touch with anger? Like, what was the motivation?
Yeah, I really appreciate, because you guys put so much effort into, like, really, when I was there in a workshop, I think you most of all, but also Gabe, you guys really tried to get anger out of me. And I think it's a very, very important emotion, because if you don't get anger, then you get depression, because anger is the active force that tells you, okay, I have a problem, and now I'm so pissed, I'm going to do something about it. And it's an active emotion, and it's super important. Yeah. And it's also super important for boundaries. And then I was like, okay, so if I don't have anger, I basically have no personality, because I have no idea where my boundaries are. So I cannot communicate them to the people I am hanging out with. And then I can get angry at people because they're crossing my boundaries and they have no idea they're doing it, because I'm not communicating that to them. So that's what I think.
That is so cool. It really brings, explains the point so well why we did this exercise there. I was also confused at first, and then as I spoke about this a bit more with people, I realized, okay, it is really something that that gives us so much energy to get through things in our life, and to move our lives forward. This anger energy, or this aggression, maybe also. But I want to just say that I had this lesson was taught to me, that, like, anger is a valuable thing, and you should be able to be in touch with your anger and let it out, and not just suppress it and not allow it in your life.
Yeah.
And then after that, I started being angry. I actually managed to get quite angry, and always in my mind kind of put my foot down. This is what I want, and this is what I don't want. And then it had some quite negative consequences, because in the at the time my girlfriend was pregnant, and during that time is also emotions are going a bit wild from her side, and I clashed with her a lot because I didn't take that shit, you know. I said, like, I'm not going along with this ridiculous thing that you just told me, or what you just shouted at me for. But of course, for her, it was more from a hormonal, emotional source, and I was getting really angry, and it escalated to quite extreme levels, with things getting thrown around the apartment and so on, which is obviously not where you want this to go. No. And then I realized, actually, also kind of in the aftermath of the workshop that you did, Eric, that it's step one is basically not suppressing or realizing that anger is okay, allowing anger. And step two is then to master your anger, or to say, okay, anger is allowed to come up, but anger is not allowed to take over my whole personality. Because I learned since that, all emotions are there to signal something to us that our brain can maybe not compute so quickly. But then we, as our personality, are still masters of our emotions. And that's the step that I kind of missed. I didn't learn to channel that and say, okay, this is what I want and this is what I don't want, but I can let you know that I'm really angry without having to let it out free flowing, right? And I wonder if that realization, that little lesson, solved it for me already, but I've definitely had a lot less anger issues since then. So yeah, it's a bit crazy that first person who was a therapist who taught me that didn't go with the step two, you know.
What did they tell you? Because yeah, you've told me this, but I'm curious what it was.
Well, we were just talking about different emotions and what I feel in certain situations that I described, and then she basically told me, well, it seems like you're never angry, or also from your past, from your upbringing, that you probably were never allowed to be angry.
Such a therapist thing to say, by the way. Like, let's look at anger.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But then I don't remember exactly what the next words were that she used, or what has happened since then. But we just discussed that, yeah, anger is actually important and why it is important, also what you just explained, Natasja. And then we left it at that. We pretty much left it at that. And maybe she was kind of happy that I, after that, expressed some anger about some situations that had happened in my life when we spoke again. But yeah, it never went to this whole channeling or controlling, being in control of that emotion, that part.
Yeah,
I think that's great that you.
I really like the word control. I mean, no, I don't really like the word control. I prefer like integration, because that's kind of how it feels for me. It may be different for you. Like, to me, it feels like I'm more in touch with it, so that I can, like, when it comes up, I just feel this kind of like tinge in my belly, lower belly kind of thing, and I know that feeling means no. I just know that it means like, no, I don't want this, and because now it's like kind of integrated, so it's more accessible. And by the way, every time I do like a workshop like we did, or anything else basically that gets me back into that really physical, you know, practicing this expression, getting into those states, that being in touch gets stronger for me. And then after like, I just live my life, right? And there's just certain situations like, no, I don't want to go to this party, or no, I don't want to meet at this time, whatever it is. I just feel like a no. It's like really in my gut or belly, like something feels like, nope, no. But before, like, I just catch it, like, I know, like, no. And I could just basically bring it up calmly, like, no, I don't want this. Like, is that like similar to your experience?
Well, for me, well, I wish I could have differentiate that a little bit better and say to my pregnant girlfriend, like, or even just think it, this is bullshit, I'm not going to have this, we're not going to do it like this from now on, but at the same time be able to kind of have the rational power to say, okay, but it's also, I can also not say anything right now and just know that we're not going to go down that route from now on, and not throw it, or just leave it in the room for her and just say it calmly. And I didn't, obviously. That's my failure. I didn't. I shouted back at her that I'm not going to have it, and this is bullshit, and why are you treating me, why are we even bringing this up, and la la la, and then it escalated, right? I think if I had realized or known this before, then I could have also known in my head without even saying anything, like, no, this is not going to go, it's not going to fly. But right now, sure, you have your way, and we'll discuss it later, right?
I think this is really like good that you share this, because that's like probably the number one concern people hear about. Oh, maybe it's good to be in touch with your anger. Well, then probably people's minds go immediately to, yeah, but what's going to happen if I start screaming at people? Which is
exactly
concern, right? That's not the point, but that's a valid concern. So, like Natasja, like what would you say about that? Like,
I have a few questions. So Eric, you always feel it in the same place in your stomach?
Lately, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Since
so you are okay. So you are able to locate it in your body and to recognize it.
Yeah, it's like slightly below the belly button somewhere for me.
Okay. And Phil, how did you then work with it? Because I think this is very important in relationship where you have to achieve a compromise and you hit a wall and it's connected with the anger. So how did you work on this? Because now you have a kid, so it has to be like at least a year ago. What happened in between? What did you do?
I didn't really work with it very much, not actively, at least. Our conflict continued for quite a while after this, and in the last months I'm just much more calm about things and can maybe know in my head that I'm not okay with something out of an anger stance, maybe, but not let it out. But it's not something that I've actively worked with. I can't really say too much to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
but I also have a question for you, Eric, because if you're in touch of your with that anger feeling in your belly, then do you still get overwhelmed by anger sometimes? Like, I don't know, in traffic, when somebody cuts you off or somebody does something really shitty to you, do you still have this like anger that comes up, or not at all?
Yeah, good question. I have to think about that. There's been, it also it's so much depends on what my state is at the time, how much I'm in touch with that, because it's kind of a matter of like, how closed off am I, how in my head am I. Lately, I've been very in touch, but again, there's also been situations where I'm overworked, I'm thinking about all these things, I'm not feeling my body, and that could be a different result. I definitely still feel it, because in some situations, like for example, like I was biking somewhere and like this car who should have stopped for me didn't stop for me, and I almost hit me, right? And then he blamed me.
Oh my God.
And yeah, I mean, that's still, of course, that makes me angry. I think that's healthy. I think that's healthy to a point.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But what I did, I just expressed it like, hey, you should fucking watch out. This is your fault. And then he drove away.
You're not totally
I feel like I
sad about it.
But that kind of also helped me to move on, and I was kind of grateful for that as well, because different reasons, like I was kind of like in my head kind of being sleepy, and now I got really present, because I almost got hit by a car. So, but not really. So I was suddenly like awake and present again. So that's the one example. Do I feel overwhelmed by anger? Yes, sometimes, yes. For sure.
I'm so impressed, guys, because I have completely different issues. First, before I explain to you my issues, do you actually feel like you physically need to express it? Because it's such an active and fluid emotion. And I used to express it by running when I was a student. When I got angry, I could run for 1 hour and a half, like crazy, like sprint. That's how I knew I was I was really angry. So I was thinking the best way to express anger is to physically let it out because it's so active. I'm trying to get this this advice to use it on myself because I have very different. So I have a therapist, and I really adore her because she can pick up. So she channels my anger. So I am there and I am explaining something and I'm completely calm. And she tells me, "You're angry." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." And she's like, "I'm getting angry. So I am channeling your anger. So can you please get angry so I don't have to get angry instead of you?" And I'm like, "But I don't feel anything." She's like, "I'm getting angry."
Really cool.
And it's really funny because I just shut it down. And then she told me that whenever I'm super tired, it's like you want to shut down a volcano. So when you don't allow yourself to be angry, you get just really tired because it takes a lot of energy to physically suppress the anger.
That's really interesting. Somebody just told me that depression is nothing more than the energy that you need to push down the lids on your emotions to keep them from coming up.
Exactly, I agree completely because depression is passive and anger is active. So there's no way if you're angry that you are depressed at the same time. It's just not possible because you have this.
Well, unless you are really suppressing your anger, and then it can be depressed. It's funny actually. Depressing, it's almost the same word as suppressing. So if you're suppressing your emotions, you become depressed over a longer period of time. I can imagine, right?
Yeah, right. Super interesting. So yeah, these are the issues that I was feeling, and then she got so frustrated that she took like a stone, like one of those crystals, a black crystal, and she was like, "Okay, I'm putting all this anger in this stone because it physically needs to go away because I cannot do it anymore." And then she gave me that stone to take it home as a reminder that I need to physically express my anger because otherwise somebody will pick up on it. And as you know, guys, therapists do the, how is it called? Transference, encounter transference, when they pick up on something from you and then they feel it through them, basically.
I mean, I sometimes have that experience. I know people who do that. This is the first time I hear of a therapist doing that, but that's really cool.
Yeah, because she's so empathic and she's just channeling stuff that I'm not ready to feel because I'm just not ready to feel. And I'm so out of touch with my emotions that I'm not capable to recognize anger. And then she tells me that it's very dangerous because I'm gonna put it towards me. And when you do anger towards yourself, it's self-harm. And then you can just pick a method of self-harm.
Choose your weapon.
Yeah, there's just so many. Just pick one. So
But
yeah,
do you still have like an angry crystal sitting at your home right now?
Yeah, I do.
At some point, she will hurl it at a driving window screen and like a driving car window, and all the anger will explode.
You just give it to somebody like, here's how I feel about you. Oh, thank you.
But the being, like, not being able to be in touch with your feelings yet, like you say, that's actually a really interesting little point there that you made, I think. And it's one of the most transforming things that I've had from meditation in the last month or so, that I've been really meditating every morning, is that it's just this sitting down and checking in with what am I feeling right now, and not much more. And I start with, like, what am I feeling in my body? I'm a bit stiff in my neck and my leg itches a bit, and then go to, but I'm also feeling kind of anxious, or I'm feeling a little bit antsy or angry, and then just saying, okay, that's that, and then continue with breathing, right? Not judging it, just noting it and leaving it there. And it has, as simple as this is, this has helped me so much to just go into the day after that, and this emotion, this feeling is kind of relativated. Is that the English word? It's not as important. It's not like pushing under me somehow without me knowing it, because I've pointed at it and I've said, I see you there, and then went on with my day, and it has much less power over me, even if I'm nervous or something after I wake up. And I wonder now, Natasja, are you able in the meantime, after, I don't know, you have a shitty meeting with somebody, are you able to recognize I'm a bit angry, and then just leave it at that? Is that a thing that you can do in the meantime?
No, I have, because I have it's very hard to explain, because I have learned emotions that were so I have a list of emotions that I'm allowed to feel, and the ones that I'm not. So basically what happens with me is, but this is automatic, so it just goes in. I'm like, okay, I don't like this person. And then why? I'm supposed to like everyone because everybody is special. Mm-hmm. And then, okay, now I feel guilty. Okay, so this guilt is with me now. What am I going to do? Now I'm going to feel like shit, and I'm going to try to rationalize and find the reasons to actually like this person.
Oh, so you're really going far with this. Yeah.
So, but this is automatic. This is happening in 3 seconds, and I'm on autopilot. And this is the same happening always. If I bump into a boundary, instead of saying to myself, okay, this is my boundary and this is my anger, I'm like, oh, no, this is not supposed to be like this. So I'm just going to rationalize everything and get out of my body and make it work on a mental level. So I'm completely dissociated from my body. That's it.
Yeah. And also fighting it in a way. It's like somebody who wanted to go do a workout, then doesn't do the workout, and then is angry at themselves for the rest of the day, and like, shitty that I didn't do the workout, and so on. Versus
but you know what is the reason for this? I have voices in my head. So I have a voice of my mother and my father and someone very important. And they all agree, there are 3 people who are their voices, and they agree on a subject, and I don't. And then I just say, okay, it doesn't matter what I say, because there are 3 people in my head. Yeah. They are thinking the same way.
And they tell me that I'm not allowed to do that.
Exactly. And this is all on autopilot.
You figured it out, because many people don't even know what that comes from, and you've already identified these voices in your head that one is like my father, one is like my mother, and one is like maybe another influential figure. And that's true, how it goes. We internalize voices, and it's not often, I mean, it's not huge, it's not what I'm trying to say, it's not always an exact copy of the actual person that we met. Sometimes it's also like just mimicking some of the criticisms or some of the judgments, and then creating kind of your own voice to kind of like put that on yourself, just so that the other people would like not do that to you, basically. Because so the external criticism of like hearing a judgment again, like, oh, don't be this way, that feels dangerous. So then you would rather do it to yourself, and that's how these things usually get created.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the only way, that's why if I would become a therapist, the only way is embodiment.
Right.
I don't want to do talk therapy, because you can talk yourself out of everything.
Yes.
And the only way to get back to yourself is through your body, I think, because my body gets super loud. It happened to me in relationships when I was with the wrong person. I got panic attacks. I felt super unsafe. And it was all my body speaking, and I managed to talk myself out of it. So I would just stay with a narcissist and a sociopath, and for months, until my body was like, okay, bye, this is over. I cannot physically do it anymore.
Yeah, so this is how your body basically tells you something that you're not ready to hear yet, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like this is so cool that you bring this up, because I feel like so many people are struggling with something like you just described, Natasja. So this sounds like something that's like a little bit in the past for you. Like, is there any advice you would have for people who are struggling with something like that?
It's a very tricky one, because I'm still struggling with this one. And I, for example, go to therapy, and my therapist is telling me, okay, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to one of your voices. Can you please tell to your voices to shut up, because I need you to be in therapy right now with me, and I need your personality to come out. So it happens because I'm so adjustable that I just I can resonate with people's identities, and then I can just lose mine. So every time I go to therapy, my therapist is trying to find me.
Are you doing embodiment in your therapies?
No.
Okay, so you're still missing that.
Yeah, because she's just trying to do the suggestion. How is it called? She's trying to brainwash me to come back to myself, because I lose myself. And then I need to go there, and she needs to remove all the layers and say, okay, this voice, no. And then she keeps trying to find me, which is super frustrating, but it does happen all the time.
I do find it very interesting, or would like actually to hear your point on this, Eric, because what Natasja just said about you can talk your way out of it. That happens to me too. Of course, I've got a fairly smart mind, and I can, in a therapy, easily talk my way out of it, or just start philosophizing about all kinds of topics, rather than really letting it come close to my inner self. But I don't have much experience with embodiment. I don't really know what that means. Can you maybe give some pointers on what that would look like? Or
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think Marta actually had a better definition of what embodiment was. But to me, it means like one of the things we did is basically also embodiment, right? So we involved our physicality to like fully fill into different emotional states. And that's something that's usually like we've been craving that for such a long time, because we cannot do that in regular social interactions. And no matter, like, some people are just really suppressed, but actually have a blockage there. But like even people who are not suppressed, they're still in regular interaction. You cannot really like fully like oh, I feel this way. It's not something that you can socially do. And that's already like something that tells your body like, okay, I'm listening now, basically. And
is it always like role playing?
no. I would say using the body to get back in touch with like the deeper layers of yourself. That's how I would define it.
I can give you an example, Phil. So for example, when we were in the retreat, I have problems with group shame because I was bullied for 10 years. So I'm really scared of being in a group. That's why it was hard for me to share. And I couldn't fully open up. So the whole time when I was at the retreat, I had the pain in my throat for the whole week.
Okay.
Because I couldn't express it. I couldn't express everything that I felt. And I really wanted to cry, but I didn't let myself cry in the retreat because for me it was too soon. And I wasn't ready to be so vulnerable. And on the body way, the body was telling me, okay, you're suppressing this. So I had a throat pain the whole time. And this was also one of the reasons I did shamanic breathing. I was like, okay, I'm stuck with this throat pain. I know why. And this is one of the ways the body is communicating with you, because I managed to talk myself out of it. I was like, I'm not going to cry at the retreat. It's too much. I'm not ready. I cannot do it. And then it was this,
okay.
It's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that we incur, like subtle damage, subtle trauma, and there's a spot in our body or multiple things that will point to that, like forever until we address it. And it's somewhere, but most people, like, it's never explained for them. I even heard a story by a guy who he always had a stuffy nose, like he couldn't breathe through his nose fully. It was always like he had a cold. It was like stuck. And that was like, when I asked him about it, it turned out to be like, oh, that's always been since ever. I sat like as a child at my parents' table and I couldn't eat anymore. And they forced me to finish my plate. And I was like, no, but I can't eat anymore. It's like, no, you have to eat it. And he just like basically dissociated at that point, ate his entire plate in sort of this dissociated state. And ever since then, he had a blocked nose. I couldn't breathe through his nose. Like, it can be really weird things, but there's always something in the body that is pointing to some traumatic event or like long-term painful, emotionally difficult thing.
Okay.
So
that's also the way in, right? That's also the way in. And so it's like our body tells us in weird ways that something is up, we haven't addressed. And then also by addressing the part of the body, that's your way into like what it actually is. So this is also where you get into like body work and the armoring and stuff like that. It's like you basically address like parts of the body where it seems like there's some blockage there or something is stored. It could be numbness, could be pain, could be anything, basically just not feeling anything properly. And then you address that, and through doing that with the right intention, you basically just, all those memories come flooding back to you, and all these emotions come flooding back to you. That's where you process it. That's where you actually like take care of what hasn't been taken care of.
Yeah, I mean, Phil, you're already doing a part of it when you're doing a meditation and you're checking in with yourself. It's just that you just pay attention to what you feel in the parts of your body. And you can also take Philip's, he has this shadow work where he actually asks, okay, where in my body is it? So for example, when you're angry, you ask yourself, okay, where in my body is it? What kind of shape? What kind of color? So it's basically just paying attention to your body and trying to connect it with the emotions and with what happens. And then usually if you ask yourself these questions, the memories come up.
Right. Exactly.
You just need to be, I guess, patient with it and take your time.
But okay, that's a good tip. I think there's also some kind of like physical exercises that you guys are pointing towards that that could be done during a therapy or a workshop or something like that, right? So that you you don't just get asked, so how does that situation make you feel, but you actually kind of act it out, or have to say, I don't know, do something physically, right?
Yeah, one thing I could say about that is like, especially the thing you just described, Phil, where you just regularly check in, like, okay, how am I feeling? Where am I feeling that? Like even like getting into, okay, what is the sensation actually like? What color is it? What shape is it? Is it moving, et cetera, et cetera. Like that's so important to practice on a regular basis, because getting in touch, like getting back in touch with your body is like, it's a long road. Not for everyone, but it's usually like something that requires a lot of patience, because it's something that has, like, you've been ignoring it for such a long time. It takes a while to get that trust back. Like, hey, I'm here. I'm listening now, And the first time, like if you've ignored a friend for a long time and then you're like, hey, what's up? They're like, no reply, left unseen, basically. But if you keep trying to mend the relationship, eventually it will work. And that's basically what you're doing by doing this regular practice, Phil. And yeah, to get into how it connects to also like doing physical things or exercises, there's many different ways to do that. We did one way. There's also like active meditations that are really great. Active meditations by Osho are really, really effective. Some work better for some people, others work better for other people.
Give an example of what an active meditation is?
An active meditation is a meditation where you involve physicality. You basically use your body to get into a meditative state. And
doesn't really say anything to me.
Well, one could be like, there are different styles of breathing, and there's like certain movement that you do, and then there's like certain expression that you do. And just because you're involving your entire physicality in it, that alone brings you into this deep meditative state where you're more in touch with the deeper layers of yourself. It's very hard to explain if you've never, this is basically how it works, and there's different variations of it. There's like 100 different active meditations, but they all involve like different phases. And one phase, for example, could be just like this particular way of breathing. Then one phase could be like just like being crazy and screaming and laughing and whatever, like making a lot of noise, making a lot of movement. Mm-hmm. One phase could be just like sitting or just like moving freely, kind of like dancing, bit like ecstatic dance, like, and also like just lying down, sitting, silent meditation, all of that, but like in a specific sequence, so that first you use your body to like access the deeper layers of yourself and like foster that deep connection. And then afterwards you can meditate deeper. And this was invented, the story around it, I'm not sure how true that is, but it was invented or popularized as a practice to make people from a Western culture help them meditate, because they were so in their head as a culture that it's so hard to get them to meditate, because there's so much like overthinking. I don't know exactly what that is about, but apparently if you grew up in India, it's easier to meditate than if you grow up as a software engineer in the Netherlands or something like that.
Yeah.
That's like Osho's shortcut was, okay, first we're going to do these physical exercises to get in your body, and then from there we're going to meditate, and that's going to be much more powerful. That's
that makes a lot of sense. So it's basically doing things that don't require you to think so much, and just doing things more on a primal brain level,
right?
And then go into feeling afterwards,
right? And he invented some pretty powerful shortcuts to that, because there's, for example, one where you just breathe in a certain pattern. And I think this is really cool. I didn't even appreciate how well it worked until I tried it on one of my clients, and like it worked so amazingly for him that I figured, well, better keep this in there. But for example, you breathe in a certain pattern, and then every time you notice, like every time your brain goes, okay, I get this, I can do this, we can think about other stuff now, then you choose a different way of breathing. And so every time you get distracted, or, well, for example, if you're doing like a new fitness exercise, right? And you're basically like learning how to do a pull-up or whatever it is. First you're like paying attention fully to what your body is doing, because you have no idea how. And then at a certain moment, like your body, you feel like, okay, I got this. We can think about other stuff while we do this. And that's where you check out. And exactly in that kind of meditation, that's where you break the pattern, choose a different kind of breathing. So like slower, faster, in, out, whatever it is. Every time you notice that, okay, now I got this, I can think about other stuff, just change it again.
So you yourself actually decide, okay, now I'm going to change it.
You just feel into when you're checking out, basically. When you're checking out of being fully present. And that's usually every 2 seconds. And that's how you kind of fast track yourself into that deep flow state.
But that you have to have a lot of discipline, because it's very, I don't know, I went to Philip for this because I cannot meditate because I dissociate. So it's basically for me impossible to meditate because I'm gone. It's the same when we did ecstatic dance, I'm gone. I completely dissociate and I'm not there. So it's very, very hard for me to meditate. I was wondering if you know a lot of people who have the same problem, because my therapist actually told me, if you meditate, forget it, because you just dissociate and you're gone.
What do you mean by you're gone? Do you mean like your brain is running away and thinking about other things?
Yeah, I leave my body and I go somewhere else, because it's another, I'm on autopilot. So I do this, I dissociate around 100 times per day, because it's my coping mechanism for everything. So for me, it's very hard to meditate. So for example, if you and I are having a conversation and you're talking for more than 3 minutes, at some point, I'm going to dissociate and I have no idea what you said.
Okay.
And
it's not that you're just thinking about other things, it's just that you're not.
I just zone out, and it's a learned coping mechanism, and it's also like a how is it called? It's a consequence of trauma. This is what kids do when it's too painful. So for me to meditate, forget it. I'm gone.
So, Eric, I think that's what also happened with her earlier when she was just suddenly gone out of our video call.
It happened.
It's just computer doing me a favor, you know?
Just poof, she was gone. Okay, really interesting point. The one with we in our Western culture are so in our heads that we're not able to meditate or get in touch with our feelings, and that we, by kind of overwhelming our brains with like doing physical things that keep changing, or that keep us thinking about the physical thing that we're doing, that we cannot be brainy at the same time anymore, and thus can break through that rational power. I find that a really interesting point. I never thought about it like this before. Makes real good sense. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's really hard to convince somebody who's very in their head of that, right? Because they're just going like, oh well, how would it work? How does it work? What is the scientific? What is the proof? Like, how would it logically work? Like, no, you gotta experience it. Otherwise, you never get it.
That's a thing that it reminded me of some years ago, quite a long time ago. I went to this therapist, and she made me do something physical by writing words down on post-it notes and laying it on the floor, and then standing next to the word that meant most to me, and then just feeling what it does to me. And the whole time I was just standing there thinking, like, this is stupid. Like, what is this? How is this any use? This is just a weird thing of this person to ask, and so on. And she made me do this kind of different physical things, just like stand over there, pick it up, arrange it in this way, whatever. And at some point, I had to close my eyes and just stand and just feel. And I stood there, and I just felt that this was stupid. And she made me do it longer, and then at some point I suddenly started, crying over something, and I was like, Jesus Christ, what's going on here? what is happening, and why out of this stupid exercise is it suddenly making me cry? And that's probably the same thing that you guys are talking about. I just realized.
Yeah, you gave it enough time to break through the dissociation, and yeah, that's it.
Okay, nice. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks.
I do have to head onwards, but it was quite interesting to learn a couple of interesting things in this conversation, and also your crazy breathing exercise still scares me a bit to hear that, but I will do it with supervision.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to do it a few more times, but I also tried different things at home and it also worked, but we can leave that for next
Try this at home, kids.
time.
Are you like leaving in like right now, or do you have like a couple more minutes? What is your plan?
I should get going soon, so a couple minutes, okay.
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 Then I think, yeah, like I don't want anyone to be like feel in a rush or anything. So if you have to go right now, then I think we should just close it.
We can do that.
Did you want to have any closing statement?
Yeah, I mean, there's one. Thank you guys so much for doing this with me. Like I had a feeling it was going to be a fun conversation, and like it totally was. I really enjoyed it. It's so nice to see your faces again. I love you guys. This is very cool. Thank you so much. As the first thing to say, yes.
We enjoyed it as well. I don't know if Phil did, but I had a great time.
I'm glad we did it. It was actually really interesting. We can do it again if you like.
Yeah, we can definitely do it again because I'm gonna keep experimenting so we can update. I can also tell you about EMDR that I'm doing on myself. So that's something very interesting as well.
Yes, let's do it again. Also, one thing, quick thing, I just wanted to discuss, like it's 22 February 2022. What does that mean to us?
It has been a very emotional month. I hope this gate, the emotional gate, is closing because I cannot take it anymore. It's time. And just, I don't know, implementing something useful for everyday practice. I'm just collecting ideas from Phil as well. I'm going to try to do what you do, Phil. I'm going to do the meditation in the morning because I'm not.
But don't beat yourself up if you don't.
3 minutes doesn't matter.
Yeah,
3 minutes is enough.
Sitting down and checking in is already really great.
Yeah. So I'm stealing this one.
Very cool.
Hey, you guys?
22 is just well, it's a nice number for me. It's double the crazy number, so I wonder if it's crazy, but so far my day has not shown it.
Yeah, I mean, this will never happen again, right? Something like that. I mean, 2032, no, it could happen again, I guess.
No, it will happen again in 100 and
when we are not alive anymore, guys. So let's cherish.
Oh, 3,000. We need 3,033. Okay, we need. Okay, we need either some kind of.
We're not going to have the 33rd of March either.
Exactly.
Also
so
a good point. We
could
have the 3rd.
I think in 200 years you will have the 22nd of February of 2222. So let's aim for that for the next podcast.
Yeah. So there's two strategies we can. I want to just quickly talk like strategy. So either we use technology to prolong our lives for 1,000 years, and 1,011 years is what we basically need. So yeah, that would work. Or we just like make a pact to reincarnate at the same time and do the podcast again. Like either or, I feel like.
Yeah, sounds great. Or let's just do it on another planet, like in another time.
Yeah.
Parallel university.
But that's going to be even worse scheduling than this one.
Maybe. I feel like the person who schedules it gets to pick the planet.
Okay. Fair.
All right.
Fair.
Let's do that. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you, guys. Take care.